Okay, cool. Fantastic. I've been informed as to Asylum's decision. So we're going to go for this. We have... it is 𝗬𝗃 versus Welsh Leprechaun. 𝗬𝗃 wants to be invited. Welsh Leprechaun, please invite... please invite 𝗬𝗃. And that'll be a good time. With that, we're going to go ahead and hop in. As we're going to go ahead and spectate from Welsh Leprechaun's side. And I'm very excited to see what people are going for. Yeah, sadly, Connor is U.S. time zone, which makes it hard inside a time zone-specific lineup, like what we've seen inside World Cup, which definitely shifts what you would necessarily be going for there. Just going to go ahead and reiterate that in chat, just to make sure everybody's ready and stable and willing to go for it here. Once again, that is Welsh inviting 𝗬𝗃. Go for it. And yeah, no, as always, Welsh Leprechaun's a pretty fun player to spectate. One of my brothers in 𝗧𝗵𝗵𝗶, definitely a powerful player. 𝗬𝗃, incidentally, also a very impressive player in their own right. Known for a lot of unorthodox win conditions that people tend to overlook, which is something that's really nice to see. Of course, as is befitting the five-head format known in Club Wars, World Cup emulates this. We will, of course, have advice from both sides getting in on this scene, so that should be a pretty fantastic thing. That should be a pretty fantastic thing indeed. It does mean that other members of both TemTeam and Asylum will be advising their respective charges as we enter this round. So with that, we'll just be... There we go. We are in. Best of luck to both of our contestants as we get into the thick of it. And thank you so much for the follow, 𝗬𝗃𝗽𝗃𝗃. Much appreciate. Glad to have you with us. So, as we can see here, it's going to be a pretty exciting one. I think I know what Welsh is bringing here, but it's always kind of a toss-up with 𝗬𝗃. He's got a couple really fun win conditions, and I'm excited to see basically any of them. With that, we're just waiting for them to pick on that side. And here we are. We can see that 𝗬𝗃 is rocking a team that definitely looks like it's taking advantage of the Hypnotist trait, which is a very powerful thing to see there, obviously. You've got a couple things. So obviously this is usually done with like a wake-up 𝗬𝗂𝗇, where you will either like take advantage of the fact that 𝗦𝗂𝗽𝗍 does not sleep, or you wake up the 𝗧𝗵𝗺 and then you heat up with one of them, and or madness buff with them, and is pretty powerful. Meanwhile, Welsh Leprechaun is running a hardcore aggressive lineup here with a heavy digital slice in it. We do have a 𝗧𝗵𝗺 in there alongside a 𝗂𝗽𝗏, so it's not entirely sort of standard business. I do like the fact that it's like the melee core with 𝗧𝗵𝗺 specifically inside the Digi. It's not uncommon, but it's a fun team to generally see. Very fast-paced, very fiery into this. Also, however, has no sleep immune Tems outside of 𝗵𝗺𝗍. So if 𝗬𝗃 wants, since the 𝗬𝗂𝗍 is free, if 𝗬𝗃 wants to take full advantage of this, banning the 𝗵𝗺𝗍 could be a very powerful way to get a leg up in these first few turns. Just unless there's like something with chamomile here that outspeeds the 𝗬𝗂𝗍, it could be very dangerous indeed. Well, hello there, and thank you for the raid, 𝗬𝗃. Great to have you with us as well. We've just gotten started with everything. And hello there, 𝗶𝗵𝗶 the Sage. Glad to have you with us as well. Yeah, no, it's going to be a fun time here, folks. As we can see here, we're getting into our first match of this World Cup matchup between TemTeam and Asylum and their respective teams there. So that's some pretty great stuff. And thank you for the follow, 𝗬𝗵𝗶𝗴 as well. Glad to have you with us. With that, we do see the 𝗬𝗵𝗶 has been banned out on so on Welsh's side from ET. This makes a lot of sense because it can be, well, first off, it's one of 2 potential wins into 𝗧𝗵𝗺, which honestly is looking kind of good this game. If you can keep, like, you've got a lot of things for the size bunch, so being able to keep that out is nice. Also, digital pressure just in general is something you want to try to avoid, specifically on the physical side. It has the potential to become mental as well. It's just a spooky, versatile Tem with a lot of potential damage output. Also, the electro punches are really painful for 𝗧𝗍𝗍s if you want to actually use 𝗧𝗍𝗍s. So there's that as well. With that, we do see Welsh Leprechauns running in with the 𝗬𝗂𝗽𝗶𝗺𝗁 opener here. This, on paper, is looking kind of rough into ET, but it's also got a lot of advantages going for it. Being able to Soul Shout Beta Burst into Rolder has the potential to be very painful here. You also do have a lot of pressure in on this 𝗧𝗍𝗍s, potentially, if you go for like a harmful microwave swap into something here. Like, you go for a Mimid on the other slot, and that starts looking really scary. With that, we do see the Ragnet banned out on Welsh's side. We see the Minotaur banned out on ET's side, as the Electrics are getting marginalized there. No Electric Custodian on one side. This means 𝗂𝗀𝗇 is starting to look a lot more intimidating there. We see the 𝗬𝗂𝗁 is being kept in the back. Still has the potential to shift that mid-game a lot as a result of things here. So, outside of that, we got, so we speak of the devil, and he doth appear. We got the 𝗂𝗀𝗇 immediately coming in there, definitely looking very strong into a lot of what Welsh has here. Resists a lot of the melee in the back, still hates Size Munch Wreck, still hates Crystal Bite, still hates Sharp Stabs, hates all those things, but with the electric and melee output here, it really does have a lot to deliver in this game. Primarily electric, I will say, but, you know, it's got a lot going for it. Yeah. Outside of that, we got, the 𝗬𝗁 picked up as well. That does mean that we are guaranteeing Hypnotist plays here. So the question I then have is, like, I think it's gotta be the 𝗧𝗵𝗺 out of ET from this point. Scunch could be very powerful, but the problem is it's very much doubling down on your weaknesses, which could be a very dangerous thing when you're still staring down a Barnshee that you don't necessarily guarantee the death on. If Welsh can husband that Barnshee effectively, especially with a Mimid in the back here, that could be very dangerous indeed. And as we can see there, the 𝗧𝗵𝗺 is picked up instead. Obviously, it still hates the Barnshee for different reasons of the wind variety, but you have the pivot potentially in the form of Rolder, potentially in the form of 𝗂𝗀𝗇, depending on what trait your Rolder is. You got a lot of options there, so that could be very exciting indeed. With that, we get into our turn 1 here. So, as previously mentioned, Soul Shout Beta Burst into the Rolder would be very painful indeed. We do see this is Deceit Aura, so this automatically means that this is a whole different neck of the woods. It is likely that this 𝗧𝗍𝗍s is immediately bouncing. I do not anticipate it staying in on this board. So because of that, if it does stay on this board, we run the risk of seeing the harmful microwaves come into it. Barnshee has a hard time immediately doing things, but it still does things fairly effectively into this. It's just kind of scary. I don't think Welsh can afford to swap the Barnshee because that 𝗬𝗁 could come in at any point and just really sap the momentum from this. Swap into a Madness buff would be the absolute, like, Giga Balls play, but I do not expect that whatsoever. Even though, of course, that's more common on your Water Custodian sets. I don't know a lot of people that have the stones to play Madness buff on Deceit or 𝗧𝗍𝗍s post-nerf. So, we'll have to see what happens on that one. So another reasonable assumption here is we see a double in from AT on turn 1 here, so that way Rolder is able to get a full Prio Stonewall onto something else that really wants it, like, say, 𝗧𝗵𝗺 or 𝗂𝗀𝗇 in the back. But I don't know how good that's looking this game. Drill Impact and Beta Burst into Monko is a reasonable option, but it does leave 𝗧𝗍𝗍s very exposed. It's a tricky option here, just due to the aggression that Welsh has, but 𝗬𝗎𝗎 being what it is, ET certainly has the upper hand here. With that, we do see the 𝗧𝗵𝗺 swapping in on the 𝗦𝘂𝗽𝗍's side, getting its fake beard up as well. Harmful Microwaves coming in on the 𝗧𝗵𝗺 is going to still do a fair amount. We see this is a frailer 𝗧𝗵𝗺 as the drill impact does land in onto the 𝗬𝗂𝗽 as well. The beta burst will be landing in on the 𝗧𝗵𝗺 as well, which is going to bring it down to under 25% of its HP. That is quite a lot of heat on the bogey, but this of course does make sense. You kind of want to like manage your 𝗦𝘂𝗽s effectively there, but it does mean that there wasn't quite as much momentum sapped from Welsh's opening turns as ET might have liked. Especially since this means there's no Arbury trigger, there's nothing like that in there. Rolder's just kind of straight up chilling, and that's a little bit awkward to see, unless this is like energy drink into Hypnotist for 𝗬𝗂𝗧. I will admit, I'm kind of just assuming this is Hypnotist 𝗬𝗂𝗧 based on the team composition. If this is Haka, then yeah, obviously we have to think about this differently, but I find a lot of people have shied away from Haka as things have developed inside the game. Outside of that, Welsh is in a pretty confident position here. The combination of harmful microwaves in onto the 𝗧𝗵𝗺 alongside Tornado means that it's going to be very difficult for ET to put anything into the 𝗧𝗵𝗺 slot, really. He kind of just has to let 𝗧𝗵𝗺 die here, or take a staggering amount of damage on something he doesn't want to take damage on. I do not believe that this Rolder and this 𝗧𝗵𝗺 will outspeed or kill the 𝗬𝗂𝗽, because the Tornado is also there, right? The Tornado outspeeds anything the 𝗧𝗵𝗺 does, despite the 𝗬𝗂𝗽 being slow. So as we can see there, the 𝗧𝗵𝗺 goes down to that, but it is toxic farewell. Neutrality makes it whiff a bit, but that is a spicy meatball to see right there. I've already seen some people talk about how that's a more valuable trade on frail 𝗧𝗵𝗺, and it's fun seeing it here, but it is unfortunate to see Neutrality 𝗵𝗺 catch a lot of its value and put it right in the garbage can. 𝗂𝗀𝗽 does come out as a result of that, and the drill impact has brought 𝗬𝗂𝗽 very low. It is actually vulnerable to hasty lunge at this point, which if this is adrenaline shot, and a lot of 𝗂𝗀𝗽s are, does start to make this very spooky indeed. A combination of hasty lunge and stone ball onto the 𝗬𝗂𝗽 spot covers the hedge-in or 𝗬𝗃 swaps, which means there's pretty much just Mimic copying the Rolder as a safe play on Welsh's side that does not involve sacrificing 𝗬𝗂𝗽. Another option would be to like quickly swap in Sensei, swap in your Mimic on the 𝗵𝗺 slot and get your synergy up to like quickly drop a microwaves on 𝗂𝗀𝗽. It is an option given the low stamina there. We do see Mimic copy the Rolder instead, which is certainly going to cover the expected hasty lunge on this side of the board alongside everything else there. We do see the 𝗵𝗺 swap as well in a double swap, getting the 𝗬𝗃 onto the board here, which has a lot of pressure to output into both of these Tems with both its crystal and melee stabs. Diffuser, of course, landing in on that Mimic means that we will not be able to find out what that item is necessarily, but the Stone Ball will be ramming into there. Mimic does take it like a champ. The Adrenaline Shot has been used, and Tardy Rush is online. We now know the trait of ET's Rolder. He's another of the Tardy Rush gang. Meanwhile, the 𝗬𝗃 has basically been given a free ride into the board, and the Rolder is very low on stamina. This is an awkward combination. A Crystal Bite into 𝗂𝗀𝗽 is basically unpunishable by ET outside of the Stone Ball coming in from Rolder, which will hurt, but I don't think it actually guarantees any KOs onto 𝗬𝗃 unless this 𝗂𝗀𝗽 is able to outspeed with like a really nasty sort of like Oshidashi of some description. I know some people run their 𝗂𝗀𝗽s very quick. We didn't necessarily have the best identifier of that this past turn, so this turn will be determined a lot by like how fast we think this 𝗂𝗀𝗽 is and whether we think its melee options outweigh the threat of this 𝗬𝗃. To an extent, we also have to ask, how fast is this 𝗬𝗃? I do see some chonky 𝗬𝗃s out there which run very little speed, but 𝗬𝗃, of course, has that base 100 speed, which is very powerful as well. Oh, man. Melina asking the real questions in chat there. And yeah, no, Malzahn, this could be a very strong Hypnotist turn, given the Seize is in effect as well. As it looks like that is what's going to wind up happening here. This is the Hypnotist turn. as it do be dropping in there. And there's basically free momentum for 𝗬𝗃. Gets the stamina back on Rolder, which is massive. Rockfall's looking very frightening now. Sharp stabs or hook kick could be something. Like a goring hook kick into Rolder could be something reasonable. And yeah, no, Malzahn, not a lot of Rolders run Rush. Rolder has a bit of 4-move slot syndrome these days, because it's got like Goring, Rush, it's like Goring, Drill Impact, Stoneball, Rockfall, or Stonewall, right? Like, you get a bunch of things like that that you kind of want. And it's, given this is a 𝗬𝗏 team, you can anticipate that it's running Stonewall as one of its 4 moves. It makes sense. So, getting back into this, though, another thing for us to bear in mind here is this 𝗃𝗁 could still cause more trouble. We have the option of a black hole into the 𝗵𝗵, which would probably just take it out, depending on the stats here. Instead, we do see the double in on the 𝗃𝗁 does outspeed and takes it down. As we will see the 𝗃𝗁 is thick enough to actually live through the Stoneball from the Rolder there. The reactive vial proccing, that's a cool item on Welsh's side. Not one that's often picked on 𝗃𝗁, but not a bad one. Yeah, no, it's the 𝗵𝗂𝗽 gets what's what here. It's not bait, which is actually pretty significant. It makes us wonder where the bait perhaps is on Welsh Leprechaun's team, as the 𝗃𝗽s is back out here, and with that, of course, 𝗬𝗏 is back in effect, which is actually really awkward for Welsh's team, which does not handle 𝗬𝗏 very gracefully. Thank you very much for the follow, by the way, General Smarty. Glad to have you with us. As well, I mean, it could have been on the 𝗵𝗵 while it was seized there, Jello and Hayo. So that is still an option. I don't know how strong an option that is, but it is one. That, or it just wasn't brought inside this 5-man team, and it was in fact on something else there. Still though, my concern here is, how do you deal with this 𝗃𝗽s before it kills you? The answer is you just kind of get... Yeah, no, you gotta get the 𝗃𝗁 out of dodge there, because I do believe in 𝗃𝗽s' Fury is coming. Oh no, and it winds up being the Beta Burst, as it winds up taking a Held Anger. Yep, it's gonna take a Held Anger from the 𝗵𝗵, which is gonna be a reasonable amount of chip, but it's not gonna be enough. Of course, the resistance there being pretty significant. Both Rolders have their Tardy Rush up. Oh yeah, no hold. That's true, that's true. It immediately dipped. Plus ratio, as they say. So with this, obviously the Tem advantage is on Welsh's side here, and despite 𝗬𝗃 having a lot of strong positions and being able to leverage 𝗃𝗽s' Fury very effectively here, the HP differential is noticeable, and he has a lot of ground to cover. It's not going to take too many turns to shift this, but I think if Welsh is still able to like manage and curate this board effectively, just scaring off the 𝗃𝗽s and or just killing the Rolder, since Tardy Rush has been working out pretty well there, Welsh does still have a very strong path into this game. If, however, 𝗬𝗃 is able to start taking heads, the defensive bulwark that we're seeing out of Welsh here in terms of like trying to manage things is going to start shifting. We do see the 𝗵𝗵 does bounce, as Monko is going to hit the board again. If this is the Fury turn, that's going to be a bit awkward. It is the Fury turn, but it seems that it's just, you know, sacking the Monko rather than anything else there. The Barnshee is able to live that due to its better special defense stat in comparison to its other lower bulk options there. Its HP and defense being notoriously low, as it will be going down to the Held Anger from Barnshee there, despite triggering the reactive vial on Rolder and bringing it down to 32%. So we are seeing some back and forth, as it looks like this was to set up a double 𝗃𝗁 board, now that we're looking at this. Unless this is like, you know, suddenly coming in left field with the 𝗃𝗃, but I don't think 𝗃𝗃 wants to come in on a board with 𝗃𝗽s and Rolder, even if they are on very low stamina. Actually, hold on. The Rolder, no, there's still a turn of 𝗬𝗏 left, meaning that the Rolder would still be able to, like, actually bop them. Rolder 𝗃𝗃 does still sound great, I can agree with that. I'm just a double 𝗃𝗁 addict. I'm shameless. Shameless. It does affect some of my perceptions of things. So with that, we do see it is the 𝗂𝗵𝗵𝗶. The double 𝗂𝗵𝗵 is out there. And with that, we do see the helicopter is available. It's not necessarily the best here because, of course, the roller has taken, has got its nullification up from Reactive Vial. And 𝗂𝗀𝗇 is a pretty effective swap into this. If this is a matter of failing to count to 4 effectively, then that is a distinct concern, which it can happen. This is Tardy Rush as well. So, as people are saying in chat, if this is speed invested, that could be a little bit hairy here. It's definitely, this is a bit of a swingy turn. If Welsh Leprechaun is able to land some of these stabs effectively and net a KO, then this could be very dangerous indeed. We see the Psy Surge will be landing on the 𝗂𝗵𝗵 Prime there because it's only at 30%, under as a matter of fact. It will be taking that and dying. It will come at the cost of a lot of health from the guys because that's the mirroring damage and the OX there, bringing it down to 16%. Stoneball, however, will underspeed anything else that this Mimic was doing, and unfortunately it will be going down as well. This is a double OX, however, from our boy 𝗬𝗍, which means that Hedgen has a very swift sort of position to be able to capitalize on. The downside is that 𝗂𝗀𝗇 in the back has taken no damage and is perfectly capable of throwing electric attacks into this Hedgen. Oftentimes the carry Sparkling Bullet that is very easy to click here. Even if Harmful Microwaves is going to be doing a lot of damage, you can only kill one Tem this turn. And you only have one turn left to take advantage of your nullification on Roller as well. He actually does wait. That's wild. So he waits to get the Hellfire online, or is this going to be a binary flood turn from Welsh Leprechaun? Because that is not what I'd anticipated here. It is a way for him to stop getting the 𝗂𝗀𝗇 on the board. But, oh my goodness, this is playing with fire. You have to net both KOs this turn, which is possible. We see 𝗬𝗍 swaps the Nagais into the 𝗂𝗀𝗇. So if this is a binary flood, then this is looking very good. It's a Hellfire. The Roller is likely going to just eat this for breakfast, and I don't really know what else happens here for Welsh. Like, if the plan was to binary flood there, I was all for it. Like, maybe a binary flood this turn, and then you Harmful Microwaves the turn afterwards. That's a possibility here, but you probably still don't take down the 𝗂𝗀𝗇. It's possible, because the 𝗂𝗀𝗇 still took, like, almost 30% from a Hellfire, so the super effective could do something, but, like, oh, this is tough. So, yeah, at this point, I suppose my question here is, like, does the binary flood do enough? No, it's a plasma beam, meaning the Roller is perfectly capable of taking things down if the 𝗂𝗀𝗇 didn't beat it to it. And with that, we do see the first point goes to Asylum with 𝗬𝗍. I will be updating the score right now. With that, it is Kunders versus 𝗧𝗵𝗺 as our next engagement. That is Rakaya in-game. Kunders invites. I will go ahead and pop that out inside there. There we go. That's the IGN. And we will go ahead and spectate 𝗧𝗵𝗺 this time, because we will be mixing it up. So we'll be spectating from this side. Best of luck to them. Let me actually set up our prediction here quickly. We're going to go ahead and do the old... We're going to go ahead and give that 2 minutes. Start the prediction, and best of luck, guys. Enjoy. Spend quarters or don't. Like, it's up to you. I'm not going to force anybody to do anything here, but if you want to have fun and do this kind of stuff, then go for it. Enjoy. Cool. So, with that, we are getting into our second matchup here between these two charming teams. So 𝗧𝗵𝗵 and 𝗧𝗵𝗺. I mean, 𝗧𝗵𝗺 is one of the beasts of TemTem. Genuinely one of the most consummate players that I've generally seen. Very good at identifying some like strong win conditions and just like leeching value from his opponent. 𝗧𝗵𝗵, however, is another of those innovative wild cards who also is just very calculated. It's one of the things that you can generally see from a lot of players in Asylum. As we can see here, he's got a pretty cool looking team with a lot of spooky things on it. We see the 𝗬𝗃s, we see the 𝗦𝘂𝗽𝗽𝗁, not commonly seen. We see a 𝗧𝗲𝗺 as well. I have seen that 𝗧𝗵𝗵's been on 𝗧𝗲𝗺 for a while. We, of course, see the 𝗬𝗂𝗽𝗽𝗃, 𝗬𝗃𝗽, and 𝗦𝗂𝗽𝗍 as well. Really fun team from 𝗧𝗵𝗵. Meanwhile, 𝗧𝗵𝗺, of course, on the pig, on that 𝗦𝘂𝗽, on that 𝗂𝘀𝗃. As people are saying in chat, it does look like 𝗧𝗵𝗺 is bringing out the stall here. You rarely see a pig without it being stall. And it's definitely going to be a spicy one to go up against. You see a lot of things there that can help either draw attention away from 𝗹𝗺 or support the 𝗹𝗺. With Bark Shield on Yggdrasil, with Stonewall on both of the other supports, it's a lot of spooky business here. So with that, we do have an immediate angry boy here in the form of our Yggdrasil. Obviously has lost a lot of offensive pressure, and that's going to be taken advantage of from 𝗧𝗵𝗵 here, who gets the 𝗬𝗺 synergy with potential synergy adept as well. We'll have to see if that's iridescent or not. 𝗬𝗺 definitely expecting the spice there in chat. Gonna be some pretty fun business. Obviously, 𝗬𝗃𝗽 and 𝗦𝘂𝗽𝗃, that's a lot of different things that you get some fun business from. You do have the option, of course, of some hypno plays on the following turns as well. You get two elements of sleep control there. If you want to go for the hypno horror, that is one of the ways you can actually pull off hypno horror, if that's something that 𝗧𝗵𝗵 is doing here. 𝗧𝗵𝗺's just bringing out the toxics, bringing out the 𝗕𝗃 as well. Likely a parrier given the team, unless this is actually turbo in disguise, which I highly doubt. Malzahn is betting its Tireless Shook. I know a lot of people are on Tireless Shook right now. I just kind of assume parrier when it comes to a slower paced team like this, but we'll have to see. 𝗬𝗃s is our next pickup from 𝗧𝗵𝗵, followed by 𝗃𝗃𝗃. Our bans, of course, were the 𝗬𝗃𝗽 and the 𝗹𝗺. 𝗵𝗶𝗴 and 𝗬𝗵𝗺 being our first bans as well. All pretty reasonable. 𝗵𝗶𝗴 can be an absolute monster on teams like the ones that 𝗧𝗵𝗺 is going for, especially when people are going super thick with it. It's just so challenging if you do not have a toxic to play into it. And in the meantime, of course, the 𝗬𝗃𝗽 is kind of a focus point for this team of 𝗧𝗵𝗵s, and it's actually kind of dangerous to a lot of things that 𝗧𝗵𝗺 has. He does, of course, have a strong opening into it, but it kind of tears apart his back line, especially now that the 𝗹𝗺 is out of commission, meaning that the 𝗬𝗵𝗺 is actually kind of vulnerable to it as well. With that, we do see that the 𝗬𝗵𝗺 is actually left at home here. We see 𝗵𝗵𝗺 and 𝗂𝘀𝗃. So this does mean it's likely that the 𝗕𝗃 is going to be the primary damaging option for 𝗧𝗵𝗺 here, unless this is going like super slow. Or we could be seeing a 𝗵𝗵𝗺 play here that tries to take advantage of it as well. So with that, best of luck to both of our contestants. Once again, let's see how well they go down here. We've got a very unorthodox team from one side into a pretty hardcore and standard iteration on a pretty standard setup here. So with this, 𝗬𝗺 is certainly hoping for the 𝗬𝗃𝗽𝗃 here. I do think that either way it's kind of spooky, but the wastewater onto synergy adept 𝗂𝘀 is very frightening indeed. That would be a pretty hard thing for 𝗧𝗵𝗵 to deal with. Swapping to parrier could be a reasonable thing there, but then why not just lead it? If this is indeed iridescent, then that's a spooky piece of business. With that in mind, though, on 𝗧𝗵𝗺's side, like I feel like the option is pretty clear here. Unless you're immediately swapping 𝗦𝘂, which is an option, you could try going for. Actually, you can just he can just find out this turn what type of 𝗂𝘀 this is by by swapping in 𝗵𝗵𝗺 and just stealing it from that side. So that could be a pretty good thing there. Oh my goodness, that is a cursed copy pasta that has hopped into chat there. Oh man. Everybody knows the lol so random era. Some people were it, some people suffered it. Whoever you are and wherever you are, I hope that you enjoy this little blast from the past as this person holds up their spork. and calls themselves 𝗬𝗵𝗶 of Doom. And thank you so much for the follow, 𝗬𝗧𝗺. Glad to see you with us. 𝗬𝗧𝗺, for people who don't know, is a really innovative team builder in their own right, and I'm glad to see them here as well. So, getting into things, we do see immediately the 𝗬𝗧𝗺 on the nid, which did decide to stay in, and a neutral stream just landing in there as well. I did not see whether that was a Synergy Adept, did not look like it. That was a Wastewater and a Toxic Ink into Mozilla as well. Okay, there we go. We did see that it was Synergy Adapt. Thank you very much, eyes in the community, catching it when I do not, as Mozilla did take the brunt of that offense, still alive at 16%, out of super danger range, but still runs the risk of just dying in the wrong circumstance there. 𝗬𝗬𝗺 is pretty hard for Kunders not to punish outside of, like, bringing in Pig, but, like, even then, you don't really need to worry about that. Now, of course, that does mean that Mimit is a really good swap-in for Mozilla there. You gotta be worried about the Matter Teleport, but, like, it's a worry that I think you can manage. I do love one of these Tems using Hypnosis on Mashuk, stopping it from really taking advantage of anything here. Man, imagine not running 𝗬𝗏𝗺 Nid, SMH my head. I do enjoy 𝗬𝗏𝗺. It's still a really powerful item, even though Toxic Ink has taken a massive dip. Speaking of dipping, we do see the Pig Epic actually come in just as anticipated there, potentially trying to take advantage of some of the swap-in options here, bringing in the most conservative one, and still, like, having a lot of capacity to scare out the Firefox and, like, not pressure that slot as much. Fainted Curse being obviously a very spooky thing to try to deal with. Not that, of course, we run the risk of anything close to that just yet. Million, if this is Warm Gift, if this was Warm Gift, that would have been hilarious, because that, of course, would have taken down the Nid. So, with that, the Hypno did land on the Mashuk. This is, of course, really good for the action economy on Asylum's side here. Just trying to keep Kunders from having a lot of options. You now, of course, can do the same thing onto the Big Epic this turn, pretty much without being punished. Doing that and then swapping the Fox to try to get your beard back is a reasonable option. Trying to find a position for 𝗧𝗏 to, like, try to come in as well could be pretty powerful. We do see Ragnet actually hitting the board instead, so that way you can get some super effective damage onto our Pig here. Pig does have the ability to drop a Stonewall onto the 𝗬𝗎, which has just come in. We do see it is Benefactor 𝗬𝗎 as well, which is going to be a pretty frightening thing. We see the Turbine is going to land in on the Ragnet as well, as Kunders tried to go for that easy KO and was, of course, blocked by a strong swap from 𝗧𝗏𝗺. So at this point now, we do have the option of some additional Stonewalls, but the Ragnet and the 𝗬𝗀𝗽𝗃 still throwing huge amounts of damage in here with this War Drum, means that we have a lot of pressure coming in on Kunders, despite how everything else happened there. And yeah, no, I'm kind of surprised that the Stonewall onto 𝗬𝗎 didn't happen there. It's such a powerful thing to go for when you're running Benefactor, because the chiefest issue with Benefactor is it just, like, paints a target on your 𝗬𝗎 like you wouldn't believe. Because, of course, the moment the 𝗬𝗎 dies, you lose all of the value of it. At this point, though, 𝗧𝗏𝗺 does not have a board to hit into the 𝗬𝗎 very effectively. So instead, this is actually easier for the 𝗬𝗎 to self-buff and like, take advantage of the fact that 𝗧𝗏𝗺 is likely targeting the Pig here. As we do see Kunders swaps in the Shook out from the Pig, anticipating further pressure on that slot, as Hypnosis lands in on the Mashuk, which still has alerted, meaning that the 𝗂𝘀 has overexerted for nothing, and a P-jab on the Crinch there has at least meant that, you know, the Stonewall that has not landed on the Crinch is not going to be as valuable there. We do see -2 defense on our boy. So with that, we do see the Mashuk does have its Stonewall up. That is a very spooky thing for 𝗧𝗏𝗺, since it is primarily a physical offense team. So, like, Mashuk is one of the only big sort of damage options that Kunders has, so getting that buffed up is obviously a very important thing for him. I want to know what trait this Mashuk is. It obviously has not been hit yet, but if this is tireless, then that starts getting very spooky indeed. like, yeah, obviously it has a lower shelf life, but you have enough supports here that you don't really actually need to care about it losing some HP from overexerting continuously. And you have Benefactor there to try to keep it alive as well. With that, we do see the Mimit hop out there for double shook. That's right, folks. We have entered double shook territory right now as the Turbo Choreography lands in. And so with that, that does suggest that this is Tireless Mashuk as well, and that is confirmed when we see no parrier on the other Mimit there. This is double Tireless, folks. Very frightening board state, so that's -2 on one of them, but +3 on the other, with +2 speed on both, despite the fact that the minus defense is coming out there from 𝗧𝗵𝗆. He has Piercing Wheel online as well. He has Piezoelectric Blow hitting for a lot of damage. This is still a pretty spooky counter-offensive from Kunders in this mid-game, now that he's gotten his ducks in a row. So with that, we do see the P-Jab and the Wastewater come out there. P-Jab in onto the 𝗧𝗃, getting that slingshot up as well, as the P-Jab lands back in for the Mimic, getting it down to -4 defense, threatening a -6 with the Piercing Wheel, which is in fact happening. So that's -4 into a -6, getting the plus vigorized onto Jormungand. And that's a lot of defense down on a Mimit. So, yeah, no, we can see that 𝗧𝗵𝗆's team is very well suited for focusing down sort of setup there with the P-Jab wheel options available to him here. With the sturdy boys in the back in the form of the 𝗂𝘀𝗶𝗆 and the 𝗃s, there's still a lot that can be done here on 𝗧𝗵𝗆's side, but he has to conserve Mozilla at this point, I think, to just have an option into the cringe. Otherwise, it's just going to be so hard. Man, I'm sorry, that name makes me giggle. I can't look at it and not take it like it's one of those things that just like identifies how spooky it can be. It's not a Benefactor Kinu, it's the cringe. Oh man, sorry, I had to get that out of my system, guys. Man, okay, so with that, -6 defense on Mimit. Obviously very spooky indeed. 𝗵𝗶 and a couple other things are going to be pretty spooky inside that. We do see the Nitrosil comes back in as potential sacrifice bait there, as the uppercut does land in on Jormungand. And at this point, we have entered the tireless zone for Mashuk. This is a spooky position to be in. We do see that 𝗧𝗵𝗆 is starting to target the OG Mashuk here. Does that also happen on Jormungand's side? We see the Stone Ball lands in on the Nid, which will be killing the Nid, but you know, that's fine. That plays kind of into Kunders' hands. He can now bring in Kinu pretty comfortably here and not necessarily care too bad. The Mashuk, of course, covers Jormungand. There's no real way for the cringe to get hit on the other side there. This instead bringing in 𝗵𝗆 is a little concerning there. I don't believe Ragnet overexerted from the previous perfect jab. Please correct me in chat if I'm wrong, because a hard overexert for Piezoelectric Blow there is very hard for Kunders to punish once again. The -2 defense on the cringe means that that's still actually kind of useful there. Oh, if it OX'd, then yeah, no, never mind. This is totally safe. Yeah, no, that's a free Stonewall turn then. Yep. Thank you, chat. This is why I love you guys. With that, we do see Ragnet does bounce as 𝗃s is going to be hitting the field, which at least doesn't like run the risk of getting like beta bursted to the face. But at this point, you know, Tireless is starting to pop off. It's up to +4 attack now. Big appreciate as the Stonewall lands on Mashuk, and Kunders is just going to start tearing things to pieces here. This is definitely one of those teams where you have a lot of supports building into a single win condition. We see a bit of the misdirection in there as well, and it's just been working so effectively for him here. 𝗧𝗵𝗆 was forced into a position where he was incentivized to try to hit all the supports rather than the shook, and unfortunately, it just wound up biting him back. He still has the option of Hypno Control here, but the problem is now this turbo on this Mashuk and the slingshot means +3 speed. That's basically a prio stage over the 𝗂𝘀𝗃, and it's going to be hard to hit that effectively now, unless you're going for like the Hypno play into Matter Teleport, and even then, you're still facing +4 defense on your Mashuk, which is way more than you want to be dealing with. At this point, you can make the argument that it's easier for him to hit everything else. But honestly, I think that the silver lining here is that 𝗧𝗵𝗆 can hit blue bar into Mashuk, and that's still very frightening here. We see the Wastewater is absolutely going to annihilate this 𝗂𝘀𝗃, which, as we previously established, was Synergy Adept. And with that, the OX is going to be pretty big. We see the Boozle land on it land on the pig instead there, as the suplex will be landing in on the 𝗵𝗂𝗃, which even after the Stonewall is going to do some significant damage and mean that this 𝗵𝗂𝗃 probably wants to stop doing things, but at this point it's already done so much. How do you stop this rampage? We have barely a Mozilla and half a Ragnet left alongside this 𝗵𝗃s, which is forced into a position where it needs to carry when the Crinch is lingering in the back, and Diablo just landed in on this 𝗵𝗂𝗃. With that, I don't think that there's any chance for 𝗧𝗏𝗺 here. It's hard for me to say this, but with a +4, +2, +3, +6 heckin' 𝗵𝗂𝗃, this is just apocalyptic. Like, the 𝗵𝗃s is literally the only thing that's there left, and, like, Mozilla can't deal with this. Ragnet can't deal with this. You got +4 speed on Ragnet. That's great. What are you gonna do? Hypno this 𝗵𝗂𝗃? Yeah, if you do, it's still coming for you. Dread it. Run from it. Tireless will come. As the uppercut still outspeed +4 Ragnet, and 𝗵𝗃s is left ninja jutsuing an evaded pig, as Divine Inspiration just brings 𝗵𝗂𝗃's HP total that much higher, as the device of this is just further reaffirmed. Oh my god. So with that, we do see, of course, Mozilla's hit the field, and it's... At this point, I feel like the battle's already been done here. We can see very clearly the combo potential from 𝗏𝗏𝗏s just brought to fruition here in this endgame. 11 turns in, and this 𝗵𝗂𝗃 is absolutely dominating this field. The combination of the buffs from various separate sources here and a load of separate, like, areas where you can get just healing onto a tireless 𝗵𝗂𝗃, which otherwise runs the risk of burning itself out, means that you can just manage a lot. As now, you can just ball out of control as 𝗵𝗂𝗃. We've hit +8. Like, there's nowhere higher to go. And thank you so much, guys. I really respect everything that people are saying in chat. I really do cherish it. So with that, yeah, at this point, it's just sort of asserting your dominance there. As 𝗏𝗏𝗏s has won a game for TemTeam. This does mean that we are in a 1-all scenario right here. As we are going to go ahead and update the scoreboard accordingly. And I will go ahead and... quickly give everybody the delicious prediction rewards in chat. As we can see, people only bet for 𝗏𝗏𝗏s. Somebody was a knower. Somebody was a knower. Well, congratulations, knowers. You get your delicious channel points. So please enjoy. That's a strong way to manage that. With that, let me quickly actually jump into the game there. So we're going to go ahead and spectate pattern. We're going to go ahead and spectate Pattern Knife. There we go. They're already in as well. Let's get in. All right, so Pattern Knife versus ET. Pattern Knife, okay, Pattern Knife is another of those players who's just like really entertaining. Another brother in 𝗧𝗵𝗵, first of all. Always have to respect the boys. But he runs a variety of separate teams. We've already seen ET's team, and it's a big spooky boy. So in the meantime, I gotta wonder what's Pattern Knife bringing to this sword fight. Ah, man. I'm certainly excited. He's leaving us in suspense here. Come on, man. This is gonna be one of the best matches of our Patter life. That is the hope, at any rate. There we go. There we go. Suspense is broken, and it's a chastity-built team. This has been a slang term picked up from a good friend of mine, Dr. Positive, identifying a double mythical core. So, double mythical is one of those really fun things where it just turns off so much of your opponent's team. Intimidator Tyrannac turning off traits, and Short Circuit Volgon turning off stat buffs means that you have to play very carefully around some nested win conditions inside this kind of a composition. Because then on top of that, you throw good stuff in there. You throw Tolkien, Nagai's, Kinu, Gyalis, 2 neutrals, and it's like, okay, cool. Either you ban one of the things that will stop you from doing stuff, or you ban the good stuff and deal with that. It can be a devastating lineup to go into. And it is kind of spooky for ET, because he kind of has to respect the Tyrannac now. 𝗧𝗵𝗺's been banned out as well, so this means that Tkul isn't necessarily as important, which is good because there's a lot of answers to Tkul on ET's team. You don't really want to be bringing it, so you also don't really want to be focusing on a 𝗧𝗵𝗺, which draws attention away from what you want your roller to be doing. It scares the bejesus out of your Gallus. It's a problem for Tyrannak, which is still looking like a delicious first pick here if ET doesn't ban this. Definitely a intimidating, if you'll pardon the pun here, matchup for ET, since, you know, we got Rusher turned off, 𝗬𝗫𝗺 turned off, Hypnotist turned off, Diffuser to a certain extent turned off. A lot of things don't like losing their traits on this team. And it's the Keanu band instead. Tyrannak has been allowed through, and with counterpick on Patternife's side, he can leave this as a hanging threat in the second part of pick ban here. So this is a really awkward opening setup here. He actually just first picks it here. I still would argue that it's better to like try to lead people into a position of disarray there, but just asserting your dominance and dropping the dino on the board is what Patterknife has done. So with that, obviously this is going to dissuade ET from running like 𝗬𝗽𝗽𝗍 in the opener here, or Minotaur to a certain extent, or anything else there. Frightening Tyrannak is great, and we have seen a lot more of it because of that funny item that absolutely closed the deal last game alongside everything else there. I mean, yeah, no, Frightenak no longer is just a meme. I just believe that this is Intimidator, and I will believe that until proven otherwise. You know what? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. We'll see. Also, I forgot to get a prediction up this time. I'm sorry, folks. We do see 𝗂𝗀𝗆𝗃. This is an opening that doesn't care about its traits, which is strong. The other problem here is we can't see double mythical unless we see a swap on Patterknife's side. So bringing both to this gunfight is actually kind of hard for Patterknife to do. But instead he just brings the 𝗬𝗽𝗍. That's reasonable. It is going to be eating a hasty lunge unless Patterknife is very careful here. So we are certainly playing with fire, but this does force ET into a very specific line of play that can be taken advantage of. And we do have a roller in the back to take advantage of this as well. Yes, 𝗬𝗏𝗃 Tyrannak. Of course, I forgot that's its third trait. Thank you, 𝗬𝗏𝗃. With that, 𝗬𝗂𝗚 has been banned out, which is just one less thing you need to keep Tyrannak on the board for. It means you can kind of juggle that a bit more. One other thing here that we have to ask is this Deceit or a 𝗬𝗽𝗍? In which case, if this is frightening Tyrannak and Deceit or a 𝗬𝗽𝗍, then we've entered another realm of spook for ET. It's one of the problems with these kinds of Tems, and it makes it very agnostic lead, all things considered. So with that, we have the Gallus and the Keanu banned on Patterknife's side. We have 𝗬𝗂𝗚 𝗧𝗵𝗺 banned on ET's side. The Roller's been picked up on Patters. We see two mentals, well, both remaining mentals picked up on ET's side. Makes a lot of sense given the neutral pressure on Patterknife's team and the fact that, honestly, Tolkien's just not looking so hot. It does mean that Volgon looks really powerful here, but can Patterknife find a position to really lean into that Volgon effectively here when we have two Earths in the back, both of which can be picked and are pretty comfortable? So we see move flank and probably Volgon here from Patterknife. That is exactly what we see. Unfortunately, Tolkien's just not looking very happy into this composition. Yeah, I can agree with you, Jillo and Hayo. If that is the case, then this is a deeply intimidating board. It's worrisome because that would just completely throw ET off the game. And it also explains why 𝗬𝗚𝗚 was still banned out. Oh yeah, sorry. Whoops. And it is frightening 𝗬𝗫𝗺! We got it, folks. Okay, so with that, ET is in the Skug Zone, like officially. This is a horrifying location. Boo! Yeah, all right, if we can get some boos in chat, that's fantastic. As, oh my god, hold on. Patterknife's got Careless Whisper as some things that he said. I mean, Plague could also be spooky, but we also have some Like, I think we're more scared of just the beta burst coming out here and or the, like, fact that ET cannot effectively navigate this. Like, Embers into beta burst might just kill 𝗂𝗬𝗍. So that's some powerful business. Yeah, no, I agree with you, Miliana. I believe that you gotta focus the 𝗂𝗬𝗍 this turn. If you don't focus, like, if you're staying in, you gotta focus the 𝗂𝗬𝗍. Otherwise, you just lose, I think. Oh, man. Careless Whisper. It's too good. Careless Whisper is just too fun. It also means that you have Careful Whisper on this team. Patternknife's team is just a giant meme. I really enjoy the nicknames. Getting back into realistic casting, though. Sorry, it's hard to focus. Yeah, no, the 𝗂𝗬𝗍 is just the public enemy #1 at this point. It still can throw a sparkling bullet at you, which will just sever your entire leg, and there's very little that Patternknife can do to stop that unless he is securing the kill this turn. So either Whisper's bouncing, and we see, like, Snake hit the board there, or we see, like, a double in on that just annihilates it. So we see 𝗏𝗏𝗏 landing in on the other side there, anticipating some swaps, as 𝗂𝗂𝗍 actually dips as well. It's a double swap into the 𝗧𝗏𝗍𝗃, which is also Deceit Aura. We got a double DA board. Oh my goodness, this is the wildest game so far. 𝗏𝗏𝗏 out here scaring the bejesus out of Whisper. This 𝗧𝗏𝗍's actually just straight up dying to a combination of Embers and Beta Burst. I am astonished at how this opening turn went. So the dice were rolled there, and the 𝗧𝗏𝗍s did not come in on the right one. And yeah, no baton pass was bad. As what does this mean? Do we see the roller come out here? It could be the 𝗂𝗬𝗍 instead, just to absolutely mortify this 𝗧𝗏𝗏s, but we still have a Snake that can just casually come in. We still have a variety of other things that can hit the board here. Yeah, actually, I can totally see the roller being in here instead. It's a turn until we have Outgrowth. We don't know whether Dinoge here has Plague. With Sweatband, there is the possibility of it possessing Plague. And with no Reactive Vial on the roller, a 𝗧𝗏𝗍's Fury into, like, a Plague would actually just total this roller. Or Psysurge. Psysurge is reasonable. The question then becomes, is Patternknife saving Whisper for the funny Careless combo later? We do see Whisper is in fact saved, as we see the Volgon hit the field instead. So with that, of course, Rusher is turned off thanks to Short Circuit. We see a Meteor Swarm land in to both of these Tems. A little bit of chip on the roller and a little bit of chip on 𝗏𝗏𝗏. It's you know, it's something to be done. Drill Impact landing in on the Snake, which doesn't appreciate it, but still, like, eats it. And the Sparkling Bullet is what it eats with a passion. With this, Outgrowth is now online. And I don't know whether Snake really is appreciating staying here either. It's got Willpower Drain and, like, Cage. Those are two things it can do. I don't know whether we really like Cage here is the problem. Like, outside of not taking damage on Careless and not being vulnerable to Black Hole and, like, basically not dying to 𝗏𝗏𝗏, I don't know what else is happening with Volgon here. I guess you just Thunderstrike the 𝗏𝗏𝗏, because only 𝗂𝗬𝗍 really comes in and really enjoys that. No, it is Rusher 𝗏𝗏𝗏. It's just Short Circuit Volgon. We saw the Rusher proc earlier. No, it is Rusher, guys. Yeah. Don't get too shocked in chat there. We have yet to see anyone go as wild as Ruminant. I haven't seen that since Yantan tried it an aeon ago. Still though, 𝗏𝗏𝗏 seems like the easiest Tem to focus at this point. You're getting Outgrowth damage into Roller anyways, and it's not going to get his R-Vial, so that's a pretty fun business. And with that, we do see the Skunch actually hit the Minotaur slot instead, as we see a willpower drain onto the Rolder, sapping its stam, as the Goring will land into 𝗏𝗏𝗏. As the Outgrowth does come down, this means that Rolder is actually just going to have, like, no stamina at the end of this, because of course Outgrowth eats a bit of your stam as well. The trap happens, a lot of good business there. Reactive Vial, of course, whiffs, meaning Rolder is stuck in a position where it doesn't really appreciate it. It is, however, tardy and rushing, so that's something to worry about. Oh man, long circuit, that's just superconductor, man. Your choice is long or short. It's just not called that. You know, it's a superconductor because it's like super long. Oh, poor Ruminate. Oh man, it's a shame because if it did like one or two other like good things, then that could be really good. But unfortunately, we're just stuck with it kind of existing in this strange shadow realm. But in the meantime, Skunch is out here looking very frightening indeed. It's got a lot of potential to exert pressure onto this board. Rolder, honestly, like, I don't expect it to hard OX, but if we see a rock fall here, that's still kind of value. I just don't know if it's enough. We do see 𝗏𝗏𝗏 does hop out as we see the 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏 land into that spot. Careful is next to our snake here, eating that Savage Suplex. Is this Diablo Snake? Is this Diablo Snake? This is the third turn, so if this snake doesn't die, we'll find out. And I don't know, this feels like exactly the kind of play I would do if this was that. We see ET rests on the Rolder as well. Yeah, and it is Diablo Snake, there it is. 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏's back up to full. We see Rolder and Skunch are not in very happy positions here. A cage followed by a Goring in on the Skunch is really hard for ET to punish here. Cage on Snake is actually really powerful looking now. Yeah, no, this is just very spooky. You also can't get any slingshot value on Skunch because short circuit. At the very least, you still have the option of like messing around with Rolder, but willpower drain is still something you kind of have to be scared of. And we do see the willpower drain is likely what's picked here because we did not see a cage. Ninja Jutsu landing on careful as Goring lands in on the Skunch, taking it down as well. Jutsu, of course, still goes first in that scenario, but the willpower drain is in here, meaning this Rolder will be hard OXing for... Oh, actually, nah, Held Anger is a really stam-efficient move. It can deal with that, as the Held Anger just fails to KO the 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏. 1.5%, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, that's close. Unfortunately, though, close does not count in a TemTem duel, as we can see here. And, yeah, no, this means that our HP differential is looking worse and worse for ET. 𝗂𝗀𝗶𝗃 does not fear this board, however, and is capable of taking some pretty good KOs here. Snake is not looking like it has a lot of options there, but that Diablo was so massive. And to top that all off, if this is double kick, which we tend to... Actually, no, it usually is Held Anger or something like that. In terms of 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏, you don't tend to see this, unless this is like a spite cage into Rolder, because that could be really scary, actually. Like, you know, you get your Rolder in after, like, anything else happens here, and then, like, take advantage of the fact they're probably killing you. You get a good board into them, have a little party. That's fun. And that is precisely what we see. We see a cage land in from the 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏, as the uppercut with reasonable stam efficiency takes down Careful without using AD shot or anything else fancy like that. And it's a strangle out from Volgon! The adrenaline shot pops, so it's a bit of a whiff there. But that is the kind of cheeky tech that we can expect to see inside these scenarios, folks. This means Nagase is no longer comfortable coming in. Oshidashi still threatens Careless, and it's not entirely set in stone here, but oh man, I love seeing these cheeky plays out from Pattern Knife. Strangle in after a cage turn to try to remove more action economy from ET. It still pops the hasty lunge power from our 𝗂𝗀𝗏 here, though. AD shot, very common item on 𝗂𝗀𝗏 because it does mean you get that extra hit out of that. But we're sticking with the Whisper plan here. As, so I'm assuming, of course, this means that Snake still has overexerted despite adrenaline shot proccing there, meaning that Whisper's just coming out with the Psy Surge. You don't tend to see. Oh, thank you there, Miliana. Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. Be the sage with the reference in chat. Thank you. This is too good. Now, obviously, Pattern Knife's kind of in a spooky situation here, a sticky wicket, if you will, because 𝗂𝗍𝗺, despite the fact that it runs the risk of just dying from 𝗧𝗵𝗺 here, like, if it lives, then Wisper's dead. It doesn't live. Well, there we go. That was a very easy cast right there. Very, very 50-50, if you catch my drift. But with that, the 𝗏𝗂𝗺's coming in for the retributive strike here. Unfortunately, we do not have Electric Custodian on any of these Tems. And seeing that 𝗧𝗵𝗺 managed to immediately bop the 𝗂𝗍𝗺, it seems like ET probably knew that based on the swap earlier. But it's always nice knowing that for certain here. Yeah, exactly. He would have lived if he didn't die. He only died because he didn't have enough HP. This is very important stuff. 𝗏𝗂𝗺 can potentially change the tide here, but we still do have the roller to eat a potential hit there. We see Strangle in on the 𝗏𝗂𝗺. We see a Stone Ball in onto the Snake instead, taking it down, meaning that Strangle still gets a bit of value. Thanks to the inverted turn order, we see Nagai's Fury coming out as well. Will be taking down the roller most likely. Yes, it does. It's also a lot of damage in on 𝗏𝗂𝗺, as ET is just getting sponged here. Wisper does go down, but this means we have a Careless Dino to finish this match off against a 𝗏𝗂𝗺 with 23%. So, with this is, despite the rusher happening here, very clearly game for Pattern Knife. Well played indeed. That was a spicy meatball from start to finish. Just an absolute treat. Really looking forward to more games like this out of TemTeam versus Asylum here. With that, we have 2 points to TemTeam, 1 point to Asylum. Let's see who our next contestants are. With that, we've got... I can immediately see that both of our people are racing to the texts there. We do have a bit of time, of course, for everybody to figure out what they want to go for next, but we'll see what people wind up deciding. I'll actually try to get our predictions set up for the next one as well. Here, I'll do that right now, as we'll go ahead and do another winner in the background there. And there we go. We got that up from one side. There we are. And yeah, oh man, poor 𝗏𝗏𝗺. I do respect 𝗏𝗏𝗺 a lot more than I used to, partially because of Satish, and partially because, despite the fact that it is very easily countered, you still have to bring the answer to it. Otherwise, you know, it's bad. So then, right, so we're gonna go ahead and Invincible, get in and get spectating. We want to not catch them too far off here, as we have just caught them jumping in now. Best of luck to both of our contestants here. We do see Invincible is rocking that sweet, sweet Terror Neck as well. A very spooky team, actually, out of Invincible. Double Bird. Generally, these days, when I see a 𝗂𝗽, I tend to assume it's Spreader. Spreader, of course, having gained a lot of traction thanks to Spreader being buffed. I believe it's just like 85% damage now rather than like the 60 that it used to be or something like that. Something around those numbers. They might not be exact. Which does mean that it's a lot easier to get value out of that, especially against heavy buff teams like what 𝗂𝗎𝗪 is bringing here. So that would be a very intelligent pick into that if this has been in fact the case. Obviously, Hydrologist is still very powerful as well. And hello there, lovely to see you as well, Willie. Glad to have you with us. We are in our fourth match between TemTeam and Asylum here. So, with that, we do see the token ban almost immediately, something 𝗂𝗎𝗪 does not want to deal with. Makes a lot of sense when you're trying to run the sort of lineup that 𝗂𝗎𝗪 is going for here. Being able to threaten with the Electro Punch in with 𝗧𝗵𝗵𝗶 actually kind of looking still pretty nice here. The 𝗂𝘀𝗽𝗃 obviously is a bit of a threat. The 𝗂𝘃 is still a little bit of a threat. And as people are saying, that is a triple fire as well here. We got Hellfire coming out from Invincible there, thanks to the Tyrannac as well. Very much a Connor sort of team, actually. So that's kind of cool. Kunders, however, obviously has a lot to bring to this engagement. Tireless 𝗵𝗂𝗃 still looks like it tears this team to pieces in the right circumstance. Yeah. Very, very spooky business indeed, as we do see it's double shook straight from the start from Kunders. He's not beating about the bush here, as we do see it's King 𝗂𝗃 out from Invincible, so a very conventional lead versus a balls to the wall scaling option from the other side here. Helicopter Kick is not going to get a lot of value from our first turn here, which is generally the only turn one option that 𝗂𝗃 has. Beta Burst, of course, does look very frightening here, but a double Wastewater looks even more frightening back onto Invincible, unless he's rocking Reactive Vial and can take 2 hits from a potential attack invest here. We do see both birds have been banned out there, so this does mean that 𝗵𝗂𝗃 is more capable of living. 𝗵𝗶𝗴 has likewise been taken out because there are no toxics on the Invincible side as well, and that can be a real annoying thing to deal with if you don't have those. 𝗧𝗃𝗃 in, Pig in, so with that we do see a bit more potential pressure for the back line and the supports from Invincible, because 𝗧𝗃𝗃 actually does look really comfortable into like Yggdrasil, Kiinu, even 𝗧𝗵𝗵𝗶 to an extent. But yeah, no, double 𝗵𝗂𝗃's looking kind of scary here. Turn 2, you can at least get the Crystal Bite in as well, but this Kiinu really is going to need to put in work. And if it's Kiinu with a gun, it likely does not appreciate what's gonna be hitting it. So either it's like slow chunky boy with like an R vial would save this opener for Invincible, because Reactive Vial, you get 1 Wastewater in there, you don't die to the second one, you just kind of eat it. You can throw a Beta Burst in, maybe you throw in 2, hopefully. We see a Tyrannac 𝗂𝘃𝗃 rounding out Invincible's lineup. We see the Yggdrasil picked up, and it's followed by the Kiinu. So that is exactly what the 𝗧𝗃𝗃 is there to answer alongside the Tyrannac. Is that going to be enough when you also still have to deal with some very frightening mushroom boys in the front? These fun guys are going to be very spooky indeed. And with that, we get into our turn 1 here. As mentioned before, 𝗂𝗃 does not have as much to go for here. But yeah, no, this I think a lot of this is going to come down to how much damage this Kiinu can do. And similarly, if this is Intimidac, then this is spectacular here. Intimidator Tyrannac just takes this wind out of 𝗵𝗂𝗃's sails and is a very important thing here. We see 𝗧𝗃𝗃 come in. Potentially, so that at least sets up the Hellfire for turn 2. We see the Beta Burst does land out there, and that is a very heavy Beta Burst as well. But unless this is a Reactive Vial, this is a KO for Keen. It's a Reactive Vial! We are in this game! So the perfect jab comes out as well. Kunders read the Reactive Vial, clearly, or at least was trying to play safe in case a swap came in on that side, like the 𝗧𝗃𝗃 perhaps. So this does mean that Kiinu is alive and kicking and capable of throwing another Beta Burst down. However, the speed up from the 𝗵𝗂𝗃 there is something to be wary of from Invincible's side. So that's something to be concerned about there. Yeah, honestly, if the P-Jab went the other way around, that would have been great, but the problem is, I mean, it's clear that Kunders is trying to, like, leverage which side gets the good stuff, and you only get 1 slingshot, so that does mean that you can kind of spec the Prime 𝗵𝗂𝗃 to have a lower speed than your normal 𝗵𝗂𝗃, and then just make that back up with a slingshot, because it's still value. There's a lot of options there that I think can work out well. Still, though, our next question is this a sacrifice onto Tyrannac? Because honestly, I think you still want a Kiinu with a gun this, but you have very little HP to manage that with. Kunders is swapping 𝗵𝗂𝗃 Prime into 𝗵𝗃𝗃. So this does mean we are starting to see the rotation into I want to get my boys online. We see Tyrannac rotate into the Kiinu slot here, as the Hellfire will come down. That is a burn on top of a significant amount of damage pre-buff here. So the wastewater comes in on the Tyrannac. That is still going to hurt. It's respectable. Tyrannac is a brick house, and it's still at 55% after the poison tick, but man, it cannot take another hit like that. 𝗵𝗵, of course, running low on stamina. We do not know the... Yeah, actually, we do not know the trait of this Tyrannac just yet. It has not been revealed because there have been no traits for it to nullify, nor have there been any gears for it to nullify because, of course, Slingshot did not proc. We do not know the traits of either the gears of either the 𝗧𝗵𝗺 or the 𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗶. So we're kind of left in superposition here. If this is a mind game and it's actually frightening, then 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 you cannot afford to just lose HP on Mimit to a tireless proc that doesn't. That just loses you the game. It's your primary win condition. You need to protect it. But this also inherently slows down Kunder's play because he kind of wants to just keep balling out of control here. You want to punch the 𝗧𝗃 in its stupid face and get a bamboozle onto Mimit and then like try to get a div up. But like, that's really hard for you to do when you have to think that your trade is turned off, whether or not it actually is. So that's an interesting position that Invincible has put him into. We do see he stays. Fire Tornado is going to land into the Mimit, which is going to be enough to actually take it down, just like that. So this does mean that 𝗵𝗶𝗵𝗶 is going to be dropping its Stonewall on itself instead. Kunder's read the board effectively there and was willing to just buff his support, making sure that it's actually capable of throwing down later, as the Meteor Swarm only tickles the 𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵 after that Stonewall. So, despite being a bit of a rough turn for Kunders, I still think that was like one of the better plays that could be done there. However, he is now in a position where he's only got one 𝗧𝗃, has not had an opportunity to buff it, and he's still staring down two fires that have all their fire moves up. Hellfire could still be clicked if the Cringe tries to come in here. Same goes with an Yggdrasil. Flaming Meatball is also available, so the combination of those is really bad. And 𝗧𝗃 is frail. That's my other concern here. So with that, we will see 𝗧𝗃 come out here. And my question is there enough... Like, is there enough on Kunder's side to survive the firestorm that Invincible is going to be putting him through? Because the two natures in the back are going to be a real rough case here. The Cringe is going to have a hard time like committing to this board. Yggdrasil kind of feels a bit DOA unless it can really catch Terranek with its trousers down. Malzahn, you're right. Turbo Boozle could be neat, and it does have that +1 speed. Does that outspeed the Hellfire? That's my question. Like, it's nice, but I think the Hellfire still does way more than you want it to. And if you don't outspeed that, then you're in a bad position. Because there's not much stopping Invincible from clicking it. Outside of that, like, there's not really any swaps from Kunders. That's the problem here. Like, if you go for the Cringe, that's cool, but, like, I think you have to div here on 𝗵𝗶𝗵𝗵 and hope for the best, unless you are convinced that you can get value out of the Bamboozle. The Bamboozle could still be a really good play. My concern is just the speed tiering with the 𝗧𝗃 here, which, I mean, you can run 𝗧𝗃 fast. It's got, like, that awkward speed tier, though. I'm actually going to go ahead and quickly double-check 𝗧𝗃's speed tier, unless somebody wants to beat me to it in chat. Quick, punk this streamer. There we go. Just checking it now, and it is 79 base speed. That's pretty high, honestly, but, it is outsped by 𝗧𝗃, first off. Meaning the turbo could, in fact, outspeed it, but we've seen that this 𝗧𝗃 is a slower boy before. We actually see the Fiery Soul land out instead. That does not actually overexert the 𝗧𝗃, which is really important. We see its double screen as well. We see the Bamboozle lands in on the 𝗧𝗃, and a P-Jab from it as well. So that's pretty interesting. With that, we do see that Outgrowth is going to be landing in here. Evade, of course, protects the 𝗧𝗃, but trapping the pig in is actually kind of scary. With that, Refreshing Diablo landing in on 𝗧𝗃 and the Diablo landing in on the 𝗧𝗃. Both of them have popped, folks, so this is not... Well, okay. Yeah, this is not frightening because this is our last... like, we still have, like, 2 turns of Intimidator left. But that does confirm to us that it is Intimidator. So, Kunder's definitely played around the Tireless effectively there. or at least was willing to sacrifice it to figure it out. So with that in mind, oh, gotta jump back to press X here. Sorry, I had my cursor on another screen there. As so with +2 speed on 𝗲𝗂𝗃, it is capable of throwing some weight around here, and 𝗬𝗃 is low enough that it's actually kind of got cause to be concerned, but 𝗬𝗃 is too spooky to stay in. The Cringe has entered the building, so if this is more fire, then that's a bit of a problem here. We see the Hellfire land in. It will be actually potentially killing 𝗵𝗶𝗴 with the 2 burns, unless we see a combination hit here. We do see the pig is what goes down. The Flaming Meteorite will KO it alongside everything else. Intimidator turns off Fainted Curse, meaning that 𝗬𝗃 does not die as a result of this. The Arbury on the Cringe has triggered. So with that, I will say, Invincible is still in a very strong position, keeping this momentum against Kunders. He has the ability to throw another Fire Tornado into Yggdrasil, and that's really difficult for Kunders to face at this point. You can kind of just let the Cringe vibe for a moment and not actually care excessively about it while you just devastate the other slot. 𝗲𝗂𝗃 probably can't make up the difference in this time, and you still have a Gallus with +1/+1 in the back that's just been chilling the entire game and is ready to take down the other 56% of the HP on the Cringe, no matter how many buffs you put on the board here. Is this Yggdrasil gonna be the deciding factor? I think you can just afford to hard OX on 𝗬𝗃 at this point is my problem, and that's precisely what Invincible does, as the Fire Tornado is going to be blasting into this Nid, getting it down to 34%. If we see another hit from 𝗬𝗃 like a Meteor Swarm, that's the good business here. We do see a Revitalize comes in on the Cringe itself, and a Toxic Ink is landing on 𝗬𝗃. If this is a move this turn from 𝗬𝗃, that is likely going to be a KO on it from an OX and a Poison Tick, but it will come at the cost of the Yggdrasil thanks to the burn proc next turn because Benefactor exists. Oh, I forgot about that. The Cringe catching me out. So, yeah, at this point, Gallus can just kind of enter the board. It's not very threatened by anything here. There's one more turn of nullification going as well, so this means that you can helicopter this turn and you're actually not punished. You can get the Stonewall on 𝗲𝗂𝗃. That is one thing you can do now as Kunders that is really valuable here. And that might still actually bring things back. Because, yeah, like, granted, you're down at 48%. That's not as much health as you want, but that's still a Stonewall onto the 𝗲𝗂𝗃, which is... We've seen how much this can do before. However, unlike the previous time we saw this, there was, you know, other ammunition in Kunders, like Bandolier here. Now it's pretty much just this. He isn't in a good spot to really get the Tireless going. We see the Hasty Lunge land in on that as well, as he is going to be throwing some damage into that. But at this point now, he can just Crystal Bite the Cringe, and it is all 𝗲𝗂𝗃 against 4 Tems. That is a lot of heat on the bogey, as the Crystal Bite does put down the best named Kinu I've ever seen, and we're left with 𝗲𝗂𝗃 against way too many Tems. Just so everybody knows right here, also well played, as Invincible does wind up winning that. As, yeah, no, we've got Invincible next against whoever's in, and they're already in their match. I'm mistaken here, as it's Pattern Knife versus Invincible, and we're already getting into it. There we go. So, here, let me go ahead and choose our prediction outcome, as it was Invincible. And there we go. Congratulations, Jello, for your incredible windfall. So that's a pretty good thing right there. As it is Pattern Knife versus Invincible for the tiebreaker here between TemTeam and Asylum. Both repping the delicious dinosaur. And we got a lot of versatility on these teams. It's a fun combination here. We got 3 fires on one side. We got the Chastity Belt on the other side. Nagai's looking real scary into this, especially given the fact that, yeah, no, auto ban that Intimidator, because you need your traits absolutely there, Pattern Knife. So... yeah, no, exactly. The different dinos is even better there, Jello, because we got the Frightenack on one side and the Intimidac on the other. That's the fun thing about this. But unfortunately, we will not see a battle of the dinos because it is entirely in Patternife's interests to ban out that Intiminak. And we see Frightenak banned as well. So the Wombo combo is not allowed here. We do still have Short Circuit as a potential option here, but honestly, Invincible's team is not heavily spec'd into buffs. We do have Protector 𝗀𝗚 there. I'm assuming it's Protector because Benefactor is almost all seen, like almost always seen in like stall-oriented lineups instead. It's very hard to get that value on a quick aggro lineup where your HP matters more, insofar as, like, you know, you lose it faster. So we do see 𝗃𝗽𝗍 leading this off, which is obviously a concern into Invincible's team, being a fast team as it is. But 𝗏𝗶𝗴 is here to remind us that Invincible's got options into this kind of a lineup. Still, though, this does mean that we get our Careless Whisper lead, and that could be a very frightening thing indeed for our 𝗏𝗶𝗴 here, as that is a Beta Burst and a Drill Impact staring a low defense Tem in the face, and we've seen how much attack invest this has, and it is the Careless Whisper, folks! Oh my goodness. Yeah, no, we are not going to dance again. Getting into our second bans, though, we've already had the Gentleman's Dino ban. So the next question here is what else we've got. Invincible has the option to completely shut off the Chastity Belt, but that leaves all of Patternife's good stuff here, which honestly could be what Invincible wants here. Like, if you are planning on using the boy, like 𝗀𝗚 especially, then you do want to make sure you don't have to dance around that kind of stuff. We've seen it has Strangle and Willpower Drain as well, so it's a really powerful denial Tem. Instead, we do see 𝗃𝗏𝗃 banned out here, as honestly, with Drakash and 2 Earths, Invincible has a lot into Volgon. We do see it's he doesn't have a Drakash, though. That's for damn sure. As yeah, no, it works out pretty well here. So getting into our next picks here, we have 𝗀𝗚 into Mouflank. So the 𝗀𝗚 does mean that we have the options of some Protector business here. Getting that in turn 1 for the 𝗏𝗏𝗴, so that way you can like try to pressure out either of these two and maybe get the kill on the 𝗃𝗽𝗍. Could be fun, but that's a hard thing to confirm. Meanwhile, we see the 𝗂𝗀𝗽 come in as well. 𝗂𝗀𝗽 is a scary Tem. As mentioned previously, if this is a spreader 𝗂𝗀𝗽, then that's a lot of, like, damage and value that's just gonna land in Invincible's lap, unless Patterknife is very careful in how he proceeds. And that's just something Invincible's gonna have. That's something Patterknife just has to work around. We do have, of course, the aforementioned Volgon, which has hit the board. And we do still have a 𝗀𝗚 on Patterknife's side as well. As many people have mentioned, just because you have a Volgon on your side that Short Circuit doesn't mean you can't run things that use stat buffs. Just gotta make sure they're not on the same board at the same time. So, getting into our first turn, Jello here's been talking about how in danger this Rolder is. My argument here is that under the Careless Whisper board state here, the team with initiative is the team I'm more frightened of, and Patterknife has a pretty solid win condition into this 𝗏𝗏𝗴 if this is like Drill Impact Beta Burst, or alternately Stone Ball and Beta Burst onto the 𝗃𝗏𝗃. Both are very strong. We don't know how bulky the 𝗃𝗏𝗃 is on Invincible's side, and there are reasonable swap-ins for Stone Ball, and 𝗃𝗏𝗃 is not really threatening them very hard turn 1. So odds are this is a double in on the 𝗏𝗏𝗴 for my guess here, due to the fact that the Drill Impact is hard to beat, and 𝗀𝗚 still doesn't like taking a Beta Burst to the face. 𝗀𝗚 is about the only swap-in that you have there. Getting a 𝗀𝗚 swap onto 𝗃𝗏𝗃, however, is value. So, like, we could see that anyways there, but that would be available whether or not 𝗃𝗏𝗃 actually winds up happening there. We do see Patterknife actually swaps out Whisper for Grilled Chicken, though, just making sure that no sneaky board states like this can happen there, as it is in fact Lunch Tulk. That is fantastic. We see a chicken out from both sides there as the 𝗀𝗚 lands in on the 𝗃𝗏𝗃 side, buffing the 𝗏𝗏𝗴 with its single Protector proc there, as the Drill Impact will be landing in on it regardless. That is still, after 𝗀𝗚 buff, a solid 33% to it. So that is some good damage out from Careless there, as the chicken has hit the board. The chicken is looking kind of spooky here. Dust Vortex does very little into it. Plague does very little into it. Beta Burst does very little into it, and there are very few swaps that matter here. 𝗂𝗫𝗽, of course, is of great concern, and that is an immediate option of recourse that Invincible has here. Petter Knife is going to have to dance around that because, like, 𝗂𝗫𝗽 just tears this board to pieces. But you know, it's not the be all and end all here. Neutral damage still scares the bejesus out of it. Fiery Soul is still going to hurt the 𝗬𝗎 a lot. We see that's Arbury as well, so that means that the Drill Impact now can hit that as well. We see the Hypnosis will be landing in onto the Rolder, however, which is easy pickings for a fast Tem like 𝗬𝗎, as the Lifeful Sap will be landing in on 𝗂𝗶𝗴, and we see Invincible sitting back and getting ready for the long haul. This means he can actually withdraw 𝗂𝗶𝗴, and it's like that first turn never happened. We can still see Whisper get some good value in the back, though, trying to bring that in at some point, getting some HP back on there. But the problem is, Nagai's on its own isn't actually that threatening for Invincible's lineup. Excuse me, folks. Oof. As, yeah, individually, its stab combination isn't doing anywhere near as much as it is just, like, turning on the Rolder in its Tardy Rush pre-stage here. Assuming, of course, this is Tardy Rush as well. I've forgotten if that's the case. So we'll have to keep an eye out for that. Meanwhile, though, this is actually a very easy Stonewall turn for Invincible here. Like, technically, we could see a Fire Tornado. Technically, we could see a Drill Impact. Technically, 𝗬𝗎's in sort of threatened position here, but thanks to the Arbury, the Fire isn't really a concern on that side. Petter Knife has good impetus to try to anticipate a 𝗂𝗫𝗽 swap here, as Careless actually is the one that swaps, as the Volgon comes in on that side, as it's unlikely that a 𝗂𝗶𝗴 will be throwing a Plague in, a Dust Vortex into that spot, as indeed, Grilled Chicken does take the Dust Vortex from 𝗂𝗶𝗴 there, and Short Circuit stops the Stonewall from mattering. A very important turn. Also, thank you for reminding me that the Rolder was asleep there. I forgot that for a moment, as can clearly be evidenced. Yep, no, for sure. It's some good stuff happening here. Still, though, the Stonewall not happening on Invincible's side. That is a hard bit of action economy to lose. You really wanted more of those buffs there. And not being able to scare out the Volgon is deeply concerning for Invincible here. The 𝗂𝗶𝗴, of course, does not have much in the way of stamina left. Dust Vortex is not online. It cannot necessarily hit back very hard into this. If it has Sandstorm, that's something. But remember, we also have Willpower Drain. We have Strangle. We have a lot of ways for this Volgon to shut off the board here. As if this is a Strangle this turn, no, it's a Willpower Drain into the Gallus. That's actually exactly what Invincible would want in this scenario, as it triggers the bait, which of course vigorizes it, means it gets more as a result of all this. We see the 𝗬𝗎 is going to be taking a Tornado to the face, lives it at 14%, and that is going to be some more sleep in on this board. This does mean it's going to be very hard for Petter Knife to maintain this kind of a threat in and also cover the Stonewall. Like, you can't actually keep Volgon on the board this turn, I think, which is unfortunate, having to sacrifice that. But now that Gallus is in here, how do you effectively unknot this? Gallus is technically threatening basically everything in Petter Knife's back line, bar the move flank, which technically is threatened by the 𝗬𝗎 here as well. You could just beta burst that slot, and we do know that Invincible's 𝗬𝗎 packs a punch. We saw that was an easy 50% on Kunder's Mashuk, which was spec'd bulky. That was like a low speed Mashuk, so we can assume that was invested with some special defense. So with that, we do see the Rolder is going to hit the field here. 𝗂𝗫𝗄𝗃 has entered the building. The Crystal Bite lands in there, is eaten, and this does mean that a Beta Burst will be coming out as well. That's going to hurt the roller a fair bit. We do see it goes down to 41.6%, gets a reactive vial in there, and Grilled Chicken is going to wake up there. Probably took advantage of this to... Nope, it did wind up using a move there, as can be identified by the fact that we did see the is asleep thing there, which does mean that it's still straight up chilling at 34% stamina. Fire Tornado does threaten both slots, but 𝗂𝗃𝗽 is still that like unfortunate threat of a swap in, and there's very little that Pattern Knife can do to work around that, outside of just like try to still click Drill Impact and things like that instead. This is Drill Impact and Fire Tornado, then that's kind of nice there, because we do see the 𝗂𝗃𝗽 come in this turn, and if this is a... Okay, we do see it's Keanu Pressure instead there. Fiery Soul landing in on the Keanu, meaning that that does go down. And the Stone Ball at least means that you've burned the 𝗂𝗃𝗽, even if you haven't hit it for a very excessive amount of damage here. And you can still hit for a reasonable amount this coming turn. This is also an easy time for Snake to hit the field again, but remember that 𝗂𝗶𝗴's back up to full stamina now. And you can't really fully threaten it inside here. Move Flank could be fun to bring in, but at this point you could make the argument that you just like leave Grilled Chicken in, try to get more damage on 𝗂𝗶𝗴, and just like accept the fact that it goes down rather than run the risk of more damage later. But with Mom's Lunge on Chicken, it feels better to not just throw your token away. You want that minus stamina. You want to throw Invincible off of that rotation. But the problem is, what are you bringing in here if that's the case? 𝗂𝗶𝗴 and 𝗂𝗃𝗽 is a very spooky board for Pattern Knife to try to deal with. You can make the argument for Nagai's, but if that's a Plague coming in on Grilled Chicken, which it easily could be, you don't really need to pressure that if token's staying in because you've got the 𝗂𝗃𝗽 there, then you don't really have much wiggle room. It's pretty much just Move Flank or GTFO, because you sure cannot afford the extra Volgon damage from like misreading a Dust Vortex on the following turn. And we still don't know if this 𝗂𝗶𝗴 has Sandstorm. Any combination of those could be very dangerous indeed. So despite the early KO of the Keanu here, I say early, it's turn 7, so that's actually a reasonable flurry of engagement. The HP differential here is reading true in terms of actual HP, and I do think Invincible still has a strong position here. That's not to say that Pattern Knife can't bring this back around, but we do see he actually does sacrifice Grilled Chicken here to the mighty gods, as the Tsunami will take down the token here. We see another Lifeful Sap on 𝗂𝗶𝗴, and a Drill Impact landing in on the 𝗂𝗶𝗴 as well there. The problem is that Lifeful Sap's going to be so difficult to deal with there, and that 𝗂𝗶𝗴 is just scaring away the Volgon, the only thing that's really stopping this 𝗂𝗃𝗽 from balling out of control. Speaking of which, we see its special attack as well, so we can assume this is indeed Spreader, because this team doesn't necessarily have a lot of minus defense focus, meaning that it's not likely that it's a Hydrologist sort of set there. Actually, the other thing that reveals that is the fact that we didn't see a Hydrologist proc. So, there we have it, folks. With this, we do see Whisper has hit the board, and this does mean that we have our Careless Whisper back once again. So, for all our music appreciators, it's back. You can enjoy your funny meme. But the next question here is, how does Pattern Knife turn this entertaining combination of nicknames into a solution here? We see a Beta Burst, which is going to be landing into 𝗂𝗃𝗽. If that is followed by... Okay, so we see the Spreader Sharp Rain is likely going to just take down Careless, honestly. Yep, nope, there it is. And that followed by a Plague on the 𝗂𝗶𝗴 is going to be so painful for Pattern Knife to try to come back from. It's a double KO! We are down to a Volgon, which is open to the Dust Vortex, and a Move Flank that is not going to be able to take down this 𝗂𝗶𝗴 before it turns this into a 1v4. It's looking like in the span of a couple turns, a close and tentative game has transformed into a crushing victory for Invincible. Unless Pattern Knife can pull another miracle out of his hat, I do not see how he comes back from this. With that, we will see the Goring lands in on the 𝗂𝗃𝗽. It actually does take it down. Following this, we actually do not see the Dust Vortex come out from 𝗂𝗶𝗴 yet, as it looks like there was a Plague there trying to exhaust our lad, as the 𝗂𝗶𝗴 will just take a T-strike and not care excessively. Looks like that was just in case of a swap. Although it was only 𝗧𝗵𝗺 in the back. At this point, 𝗵𝗶𝗵𝗶 can just, like, slowly apply pressure to Pattern Knife, and this is just very hard to deal with. This Volgun feels so sad against these last 3 Tems. It's got a lot of, denial options there. It still has the willpower drain. It still has a lot. But in the meantime, this 𝗂𝗶𝗵 is just kind of tearing it apart alongside the sharp stabs. Meaning now it's just move flank versus the world. And that is a lot of HP to try to take down. That is a full 𝗧𝗵𝗺. That's a full 𝗂𝗀𝗺cie in the back. The Crystal Bite comes down. The base jump's going to be coming into 𝗧𝗵𝗺. Pattern Knife is dying a warrior here, it looks like. Unless he decides to tap out this very turn. But at this point, you might as well go in for the glory. And that's precisely what he does. As he gorings out, saves his TMR a little bit as he hits into that 𝗧𝗵𝗺 there. And just goes down to the Dust Vortex as... Asylum take their 3rd point. Well played to both of our teams here.